here with us
Mhm.
apart from us three. So I think let's start, and the students will then keep joining in.
Okay. Oh, this read.ai has come from me, is it? Okay. I'll just
Okay.
stop that.
Okay. So, hi students. Today we have Nanjudan. Sorry, sir, if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. If you could just help me with the pronunciation, that'd be great.
Nanjunda?
Nanjunda.
That's right.
Okay. So we have Nanjunda sir here with us today. He is an economic coach and he is the author of What on Earth is AI and Exploring AI. He is an IITian. He's from IIM Bangalore, and today he'll be taking this session with everyone and talking about scaling your startups and how you can do it using economics and using the various formulas of economics and whatnot. So I give the stage to Sir, and you can start.
Okay. Well, Janvi, thank you so much. So I don't have any official knighthood, sir, being granted. So I don't have sir that I carry with, and uh, I don't teach economics. This is distributed economy model, and hopefully I'll cover that in the course of our conversation. I basically believe tokenization is a way to go with for implementing distributed economy. So I don't know if you get an opportunity to talk about it, I will do that. And I am given to understand that we have interacted in the past. So if we have interacted, you must have heard of that from me in the past. And I'll just get started. I don't honestly recognize the names here as who was previously part of the sessions that uh, I've had with NASCOM. So I am ignorant of the business that you run. So if you guys want to quickly, maybe put it in the chat room what your venture is about, because of course Akhilesh mentioned various names. Names sounded familiar, but I don't recall what kind of businesses they are. So maybe you could just quickly put it in the chat room, and I'll just run through the uh, presentation. And what I've also done is I've put together some frameworks for uh, pretty much everything that I'm talking about. I've still not put together framework for everything, quite a few things that I'm talking about. So I think what I'll do is that after this session, I will be sharing it with uh, by mail with Abhishek and Jahnavi, and they could in turn share those frameworks with you, because I think if you can use those frameworks for your venture, it make it a lot easier for you to plan and do a whole lot of. I mean, I've tried to make it as generic as possible, so no matter what sector you come from, you should be able to use it. So with that, I'll just share the presentation. Is that okay? I
Yes.
Okay. So you can see this, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is one. What I've done is the framework is in the. I did it more as a infographic, but I realized that it would have been better off as a, maybe in a document. So For now, I'll share the presentation as well, so you can use this. And maybe whenever I get time next, I will put this also uh, uh, in a PDF, so that you can actually go about it, or see how you can use it. So what I understand is that we are talking about scaling. So uh, I try to take the uh, follow a certain process. So what happens is that most times when we are running a venture, we don't necessarily uh, uh, get to a point and say, okay, now this stage has come and now we will, change the gear, because there'll be a lot of things that keeps happening. So things are very organic, and most times as a startup, there'll be so much of firefighting happening. We have conflicts with our co-founders. We have financial situations. We have payment issues. Payments don't come, and sometimes our funds are depleting faster than we had estimated. So there are and also employees quit, and then co-founder can go and potentially start a competition, can even take away your biggest customer, or an employee can go and do the same. And sometimes compliance can get hard on you. Sometimes investor backs out, that is if you have started with an investor backing, or sometimes with an investor promise you would have got started and investor doesn't come around to give the check, but by then you already got committed with a lot of things. So when you start a venture, there are hundreds of things that we all face, right? Each of us face, and there are some things we may face, some things some don't face, but we all are witness to it, either with our own ventures or with other ventures that we see around. But when we talk about scaling, uh, we get to a point where we are assuming, like I assume that we've gone past the basic hurdles, are in the process of getting past that, and we are looking at scaling. So from that aspect, I've got onto it. So many of you may not really think it is relevant at this point in time, or some of you may think you already crossed this as well. So I urge you, just give a serious look and consider looking into the framework, not just this what I'll be sharing over the mail as well, because I think a structured approach can help us handle a whole lot of these situations in a much better way than uh, we otherwise can, because as founders we need to be able to save our mind share to firefighting. So some amount of organized effort and structured effort can free up a whole lot of your mind space. So this whole exercise, in my opinion, would be in that context. So if you have any questions, you can always raise a hand and we can get into it, or you can wait for the end, whichever way, whatever you're comfortable with. So getting into see, what is important is that when we most times, right, I'm just generalizing it. So you may have done a thorough market research and even a validation, but most times what happens is that we just get started because we were in that field, we were doing something, and probably the company we were with uh, didn't really uh, see the value that we see. So we sometimes come out of that company and we start building it and start going after that opportunity. And many a times you hear, you see, and there are various motivations, right? Somebody else tells you that, see, this is an opportunity, and gets you to quit your job and come and let's do it. So no matter what the motivation to start, majority of the times founders and co-founders don't really do a very thorough market research. And I've also come across where most times, in fact, to be honest, I have also done it very early on in my entrepreneurial journey, that I make some assumptions and then I do some amount of market research to confirm my assumption. So, which is a very wrong way of doing it, right? So, it's best that we do without our own biases. It does creep in. We need to figure out uh, a way to keep our biases at check. So, in fact, uh, when when we work on, I don't know if any of you are into uh, uh, medical space or something. See, some of the spaces where it is very necessary that we actually even define our biases. We try to capture our biases and say that, okay, this is the ready assumption I go with, so that whatever we do, we are aware that, okay, these are the assumptions. But most times we don't even capture those things. So, what I urge you is that to do an in depth market research, park your assumptions, and do not try to do it to reconfirm what you already know. Validate it in true sense, whether your assumption is right or wrong. Not just reconfirming that, this is what you assumed and that is right and this is the evidence. Don't leave out whatever that says that you're wrong or you may be wrong. So try to capture as much and try to do as in-depth a study. And there are various uh, methodologies and various efforts that you could do in the process. So that is where I tried to capture that. I realized that putting this infographics and the slide uh, makes it very difficult for you to focus on it and try to get any more details out of it. So once the this deck is shared, you can try to take it, and I'll see how soon I can capture this and share it back with you. So till then, please make do with this. So the process of uh, validating customer needs and sector specific demands. So when I say here, see, I've tried to make it as generic, because if I try taking up specific sectors, then it may not be relevant to one, since we are talking about a very generic entrepreneurial audience. So, considering that, there are different methodologies you approach uh, when you're particularly coming from one sector. So, some things are more effective in that approach. So, I'm trying to be generic here. So, any of you who are specifically in particular sector, and if you think any of the frameworks that I have shared, I mean, that you will be having later today, you will be getting hold of. If you think that that is not helping and you need little more detail into it, please feel free to reach out to me, and I'll see how I can make it a little more specific for you, and uh, if I can help you with that. So that is where try to make it as specific, as in-depth a study, and try to be very clear even when you identify each group, that you're not picking up people who are going to validate what you have already assumed, but they're going to contribute to validating the assumption, whether it is right or wrong. So that's very, very critical. And then, yeah, that's how you pick a mix of surveys. Just don't go with what your comfort zone is. Go beyond that. Define proper, effectively the focus groups. Take help from people who, either you could reach out to any of your advisors, I assume, and also I think NASCOM must be making available a lot of mentors to you. So take help of people. And if you need, you can also reach me. But take help of people who ideally come from your sector, or uh, generally people who you think can help you best, because it's also important that you're able to connect with your mentor, and uh, you're able to work towards moving forward with your target. So to take help, build those focus groups, and then work towards pilot programs. And sometimes you may have to collaborate with pilot programs. Even there, just don't go into your comfort zone. Please pick the right set of people. Pick people who you think can really add value. Sort out your documentation. So if you are working on something where it involves or demands or possibilities of creating an IP and such, have your documentation sorted. So just don't put everything out in the open. So no matter who you're dealing with, try to have proper documentation and protect your interest, and do a genuine effort and take help, even in terms of assessing your competition, looking into industry. There are enough reports are there. I think I've given some references there. You can look it up. And well, not here, but it is fairly generic. But you will have to look at specific to your sector, whichever sector you're in. And also take help from your alma mater if you can reach out to whichever colleges or universities you studied in. And today there are also specific reports that are available for a fee, so you can even buy or subscribe to them. But do that; it's very important. And why is it important that you even if you could pay and get those reports? Is that that best confirms your claims. When you go to an investor, when you go to a new market expansion, you will definitely need more money, and you need to make substantiate your claims. So that is where all these efforts will help. And if at all you subscribe to or bought into a reputed report, uh, so then the investor is less likely to say that what you're claiming is bullshit. I mean, which people do. People even I've had experiences where an investor actually when I was actually showing the report from Gartner, and the investor didn't even read where that data is coming from, where I had already given the reference of that it is from Gartner. Of course, this happened long ago. Yeah, 16 years back. But I don't think much of investor mindset has changed. So there are still a lot of people who think their personal experience is better than any large study or report. So sometimes you just have to bite the bullet and make it clear to them that, listen, this is not something that I am claiming from my personal experience, like what you just said, but this is coming from Gartner, which has a huge reputation for having been there, done that, and this is a kind of a report that governments to government agencies to even public corporations use to make their own planning and prediction. So you have to substantiate those things. So please look at it and try to get those kind of reports as well to back up your claims. Uh, most times this is one of the things uh, which gets lacking, right? And I don't know, most times, I think, I don't know, maybe it is we as Indians, our trait, right? That we like a film with action, romance, drama, adventure, right? We want everything in the same. So we tend to approach the similar thing even in our startup, saying that we will solve everybody's problems, right? Like how in a movie it should be good for a 6-year-old to 80-year-old person. We try to say that our product or our service, our solution caters to everything. So it doesn't work like that, right? So please try to be very clear about who it helps, how it helps, what exactly it does, and what is their takeaway in it, and why they should consider instead of something else. So, right, that's the competitive analysis we talked about previously. So get to the core value proposition that you're talking about. And it's very important that you identify it, so that you don't beat around the bush saying that, yes, I can also do this, I can also do that, I can also do this. Right. So try to be very clear, very specific, that, see, this is for you. So for that, of course, uh, what happens is that by the time you come to a stage of scaling up, traditionally what happens is our early stage of customers come from our personal networks or personal relationships, right? They may have been your customer previously who says, okay, I like you, okay, I'll go with your service. Or it could be your employer, it could be your friend, your uncle, our friend's father. So usually our first set of customers are always within our 1-2 degree of circles. But scaling cannot happen when you look at this circle alone. So for the scale, when you are scaling your business, it is very important that you have a clear clarity of who the customer is. And it cannot be based on your past customer because you came from there, or your friend's father business because your friend would have had a significant influence in his father agreeing to buy your product, service, whatever. So you cannot be defining your customer for scale based on your first set of early customers. So when you are talking about your next scalable opportunity, that is where it is very important that your core value proposition has to be very, very clear. And that is where you're also clear with who your target customer is. And so you there you have to be able to get through because you have a value proposition that appeals to them, not because they are related or they are, relatives relative, or they have worked with you, because you will no longer be talking to that set of people. And obviously you cannot be scaling with that approach. So this is where this aspect becomes extremely important, so please give time to it. And I've also shared a simple framework for it, which you will have it. And hopefully tomorrow, whichever the frameworks you think would be relevant for you, maybe you could make it, and tomorrow you could bring it up and share, and we could discuss that. But this is very critical from a point of how we approach scaling. So focus on this, pay attention to it. And this is another area where you have to significantly unlearn whatever you had got started with, right? Because uh, our initial journey is so many things, right? I mean, so many people trying to help us, or so many jugards that we have managed to pull through. But this is a stage where you start getting far more structured, because you need to be able to cater to a much larger number of customers. So if you're into products, you need to be manufacturing, or you're getting manufactured somewhere, but you need to have your supply chain more effective, and better pricing, and also you have to ensure better quality. So there are a whole lot of things, and also how do you stitch customer support to it. So each of those, that customer journey, you would have had to go through multiple times, how you address it, and everything has to center down to the core value proposition. So every time you pull the thread, you have to ensure that it is connected here. So this is why this is very, very critical. And if you have doubts, come back. Maybe you want to talk about it from your business, we can try to explore that with that. So uh, um, vector specific, yeah. So communication also becomes very critical here in how you represent it, because end of the day, it's all about how the value gets perceived, right? For that, communication is very critical. Even small messaging is very critical. Sometimes it starts with the color and every aspect of it, right? So you need to be on top of it. So give enough attention, and this is where even working with a good branding agency matters, because this is at the time of scale is where you need to be able to. I mean, if you are catering to a consumer product, if you're going to D2C or B2C or even B2B2C, that you need to have your branding addressed sufficiently so that it gets carried through and does not get diluted when it is going through somebody, like in a B2B2C. So you need to spend good time, take professional help, have the right thing in place. Otherwise, scaling becomes very difficult. I'll just move to the next slide. Are we good? I mean, uh, is there any uh, is there any gap? Is there anything that you're not able to get? Okay, some chat is there. I was not looking into the chat. Do you want me to read it now? Okay. Okay, this is not important right now, right? I'll come back to it. Until now, is there any challenge? I mean, uh, am I able to get through to you? Uh, are you able to understand what I'm saying? Is there any challenge in, uh, getting my communication across? All good? Just give me a thumbs up. I'll just get back.
Students, if you could just give a thumbs up or just say that, yeah, everything is good. I
Okay.
think Abu has a,
Question?
yeah, he raised his hand. Okay, not anymore.
No, it's a thumbs up. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Thanks. Yeah. See, I'll try and time and again do that because I don't think I sound so good that I can put you to sleep, but my slides are just black and white. So I don't know, looking into the screen, uh, and also maybe since I've been continuously on call, so I don't know if my voice has become very soft. I feel that it has become
No,
soft.
no, sir, not at all.
So it's okay. So I'll just try come back and check again on that. If you have any or if you're still awakened with me in this, so bear with me on that. So moving forward, modular products or service design. So this is what uh, I was briefly touching on earlier, right? So I know, I think I just had a quick look at it. I didn't read the whole thing. So one is building an AI product and other was something else. So I've just tried to make it as generic as possible. Uh, so no matter what you do, whether you're building a physical device, a hardware, or it is a software, you need to approach it in a modular way so that you can try to make it as customizable as possible because today the expectations are such, right? Personalization is offered by biggest of brands even at a scale. So and also the biggest differentiator for a startup to a large corporation is that a startup can deliver personalization far more effectively because of size, right? And because as a founder you yourself can pay attention to what is going on. So that is where there is a intrinsic expectation of personalization from a startup by every client, whether it is a B2B client or even a B2G government client, also expects some element of personalization in the way it gets delivered to them. And obviously, the consumer expects personalization because bigger brands have already spoiled them. So, given that, you need to figure how do you deliver it, and biggest aspect of being able to deliver it is you need to build a modular architecture to your design and development and fulfillment at every stage. So I've tried to create a feedback mechanism for this, that framework that should help just go through it. See, what is very important here is that at every stage, we need to keep in mind that we are going to approach it in a very iterative way. So every customer, even though they are paying for it, it is very, very important that we constantly keep taking feedback into it because we are at war, right? I mean, there is no finality that you gave something. See, we are not in the era where, uh, you know, I think till about 90s, which is now 35 years ago, maybe 35 to 40. By the time 90s approached, things started changing. So about 40 years ago, government used to tell 40 years ago, nearly from about 65 years to 40 years, about nearly for about 25, 30 years, government used to determine how much a company should produce, a private company, not a government company. I mean, of course, government company was also told how much they should be producing, how much they should be making, but they were also determining how much a private enterprise should be making something. So that is why you may have heard or hear some stories where people had to book for a telephone. We had to book because instrument had to be there. Instruments were also made in batches. I'm talking about telephone instruments for landlines. And then wiring had to be laid out. There was planned in budget phases, so lines won't be available enough for anybody to be connected with. And then vehicles, scooters, cars, they were all made in restriction was there in the number of components that they could import, that they could manufacture, then the full product that they could deliver or sell in a given year. So those eras are over. So you need to be able to capture the feedback and better it because we are today in such a competitive world. And as much as government is trying to keep China away, Chinese products are very much here, and their quality is top class, though whatever people may talk about it. And then there are other products also highly competitive, and we have competition within India itself. See, we are huge. So you want to be relevant, you need to be continuously improving. You need to be continuously working on what ticks the customer, what hurts the customer, where do they fret, frown, everything you need to be capturing. So you need to try to capture every aspect of it. And both in device space, you got to go with their journey. So sometimes you may not have the luxury of like having, run a test run that equipment for thousands of hours. Sometimes you just want to be selling because, we all have pressure. So when you do that, you keep a very active view to what is happening there. Of course, you need to keep up with this journey. Maybe in another couple of years, I think AI will sort out a lot of these things. So you will be able to simulate possibilities and then figure out where things go wrong, and even customer support, feedback mechanism, everything can be better managed by AI. But for now, there are also some tools you can still use it to capture, but pay attention to it as a founder, as a co-founder. Please do not put it to some intern. I've seen people, customer support is handled by interns, which is very bad. In fact, customer support should be handled by the founder. So you have to have your ears to your customers' pains. Do not outsource it. Do not give it to somebody else. Till you achieve the scale, you need to be on top of it. So please be very clear about it. And even as you scale also, you keep revisiting it, because you have to be grounded from a point of understanding pain, customer problems. Because the day you stop being in touch with them is the day you start losing your company. So as a founder, be always in touch with your customer. Even if you don't attend their party, attend their problems. Right, there are a lot of founders who I know, they actually go and party with their customers. They like to go for even holidays and all that. But when their customer problem is there, they'll call their one of their managers to attend to it. So be in sync with them. So so it's not whether you don't attend their party, you lose nothing, but you don't attend to their problem, you lose everything. So please remember that part. And then, yep. So go through this framework. If you have any challenge in customizing it to your requirement, get back to me. I'll try to help you with that. Invest in APIs. It's very important. And also, those of you who are building software products, if you're approaching it from things, so try to make it modular. Try to make it as an API, even for your own needs, so that as you scale, see today, a lot of things can be utilized in various other ways. So try to build it like an API itself for your customer requirements as well. See, one other thing which becomes very, very critical as we scale is how we work with our own teams. So I just want to step back here a bit while you can read this. That if you are, okay, maybe it's a time I'll just ask you a question. Uh, how many of you have co-founders or single founder? Okay, maybe single founder.
Yes, sir, single founder.
You're a single founder?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, Yash has a co-founder. We have only two, right? Or do we have more?
Bhavya is also there.
Bhava is also founder. Okay. He's a
Yes.
single founder, is it?
No, he has a co-founder.
He has a co-founder. Okay. So maybe Abu, I'll just talk about the challenges with the co-founder. See, as a single founder, you obviously avoid these things. We will get back into the team part of it for everybody. But before we get to the team part, um see, many a times when we get started, we like to believe that we get started in a manner where among our co-founders we say that okay, you do X, I'll do Y, and Also, there are times we ask each other to, you know, support, take up some of our own responsibilities so that we both play some of these similar functions. Uh, Very rarely, where sometimes, or like even there are large corporations, like in the, I mean, there's a history, right? I don't know how much of Infosys history, but they were boss and they were subordinate, they were team members. So there was a clear cut hierarchy set there in the co-founders. So there was a at least everybody knew who will take the final decision. But many a times here, when we work together, the co-founder, uh, we may not have somebody who is willing to say that, okay, I mean, you take the final call, right? And ego sets in, ego creeps in, and then there are times one starts feeling that I have contributed more having come to this stage, right? I mean, when you're building a venture, it's always like the first set of customers come from our own personal network. It's not that all of us are very social beings. Some of us could be very antisocial from a point of, we're just not as extrovert. We're not comfortable going, asking, why don't you buy? Why don't you help? Most of us are even shy from asking for help. And that is where the other co-founder may not be as shy and may be very open and openly going and seeking, and the person invariably ends up bringing more business. So many a times what happens is that, not just many a times, but this is also there in our society, that we tend to regard somebody with more money with better respect than more knowledge, right? I mean, this is by and large the norm, not just in India, globally. uh, so See, till some years ago, we would regard, I mean, of course, there are history. We study history. We talk about, okay, these were the philosophers. Of course, I mean, today, some of the philosophers are better identified as religious gurus, unfortunately, but they were philosophers. And then there are Western philosophers, but most people we would like to remember are the powerful kings, because they control the wealth, they exercise power. But what is important is, when you're running an organization, you will have somebody who will have the domain expertise, who will have the product development capacity, who will build what you identify as a core value, significantly brought in by that person's contribution. But then somebody who brings money organically, that is a general perception, right? That market and people, everybody respects, right? Today, there are, right? I mean, we actually have in our society, there is an actor who went to jail for not only carrying ammunition, but he was also indulging with some terrorists and all that. But he's wealthy. I heard he's got some 5,000 crore wealth. So he's regarded highly, because we don't respect people because he's he I mean, we don't social status is not determined by his actions, but determined by his wealth. So the same thing reflects when we go to our teams and say that, okay, he brought all the money, so he needs to be respected. So people also around you start telling you, so don't allow these kind of things come in between you. Have a very meaningful conversation, figure out. And even if some companies also try to do a rotation basis, see, it's very important that you be very clear about who's good at what. And believe me when I say this, that i've seen I've had the privilege of working with a founder of another company where he had hired me. That brilliant guy, he hired a CEO. He hired a CEO, made him a co-founder, and had a super exit. So it's very important that you understand that he did play a CEO role. He was the founder, he was a single founder like Abu, and then he built the company, he brought in the teams. He started making co-founder status to people who are contributing some key functions, and gave them the status, but very clear that they also carried a designation of AVP and things like that, more meaningful, acceptable at a delivery function, but they were also co-founders. But then, when after 2.5 years, he brought a 2 years, he brought a guy to be the CEO, he gave him a co-founder status because he also gets sufficient say and ownership. See, the status of co-founder is a huge thing. So we've seen time and again, right? Like very famous one, Tesla, Elon Musk. He was an investor. I mean, it's a different thing that he chased down the two co-founders and he called himself the founder. But see, that power of founder, co-founder is significant. So you please be cognizant to it. But even if you don't want to give that status, please understand your own strengths and weaknesses. Not don't measure it with your ego. Measure it with your ability to take this company forward. You got to be clear what is important for you. You want to build this company, you own this company, period. Right? So you don't have to be identified with as a CEO. CEO is just a tag in front of a founder. You can carry any card, right? I mean, you can be a customer support assistant because you have to be assisting your customers support needs. So it doesn't matter. As a founder, don't get carried away that you need to be the CEO, but be let the best person for the job be the CEO. Let the best person for the face of the organization. So don't allow those things. And another thing is, a lot of these people also get caught up with what is important. I've seen very recently, in fact, this is unfortunately, this is a company where all of them are 40 plus. I mean, very mature company. They have already spent quite a lot of years. Now they are in a shaky ground, and there are three or four IPs, all with one director. And at no point in time he made it as an asset to the organization. That's unfortunate, right? You know, when you are working towards a company, if there are individual IPs which are contributing to the core value of the organization, you guys have to talk it out and make sure that the co-founder in whose personal name the IPs are transferred as a are made into an asset to the company. Because tomorrow, if the co-founder leaves with those IPs, the venture dies. It is very odd, very strange that how did they allow this kind of a thing? You know, they have worked like that for last 7, 8 years, and they have never bothered to put together on paper that the IP patents held by one co-founder is actually become an asset to the company. So anyway, so these kind of situations can come in. So please be very careful and have documentation proper. And when you work with the teams, it is also very important that see many a times the traditional I've seen this. So if you are coming from a traditional family business, I actually have very high respect for traditional family business. I'm a first generation entrepreneur, so I ended up making big mistakes, right? So I call uh, I've made mistakes worth crores, but you actually avoid doing such mistakes when you come from a family business background. But having said that, my observation in family businesses are that there are some things they keep it very close to themselves. They don't, you know, there's a lot of secret operations that happen. So there are key things which are secretive, which is handled by one. See, all these things are nice, good. Perhaps it has helped in certain family business go from father to son for generations. But when you are operating in a business and era and ecosystem where it demands scaling and you have to be operating globally, see, you're not a Rothschild with so many sons that you can send one son to one branch office. I mean, that was the model they employed. They actually used to, that was a family rule that they should have as many sons as possible because uh, that era was such that they didn't give much importance to women in the European world. So they would have so many sons and they would send each son to one city and that son operates their business. But you don't have that luxury. So and you can't wait for 25 years if you have to, or whatever number of years. So please try to have things, build a more open ecosystem and encourage everybody to share with others because scaling demands sharing of knowledge particularly. So if you are not able to get everybody on the same page, you will not be able to respond to challenges or even customer pain points. Things happen in silos, you won't even know where the problem is. Solution may actually be in just another person who's possibly in the next cabin or next cubicle. So unless you keep talking and you create a structured way, so this framework I've shared here gives you a little bit of a structure. So do it in an organized way, right? I mean, some people say they do weekly stand-ups. All those things are very good, but what is very important is do it little structured, capture the flow, capture the process, so that even if somebody is not there, you should be able to get this through. And when you are looking at scaling, these things become extremely important. Uh, so I know I've not mentioned OKR here, but I don't know. Some of you may be familiar with OKR. In fact, I also urge you to read that book. It's brilliant. Uh, I'll see if I can get the link, but you can just search OKR. It's uh, that the guy who wrote it was formerly Intel, and he was also an investor. I'm not getting his name. So, um, so OKR would help you structure a lot of these things very effectively. So, see, a lot of times, uh, I really don't know the background of you guys, but most people I've seen in the tech industry, they're people who are very, very competent technology guys, but not not really driven to sales. They may be very good at negotiation, but a lot of times they assume negotiation alone is sales. It is not. See, sales is a different animal altogether. I'll just share with you. There's another uh, company that I'm mentoring. Very competent people, brilliant technology guys, and they're all 40 plus people. So they know what they're talking about. Come with good experience of having worked with very large companies and handling product portfolios of millions of dollars for those companies. So they know exactly what they're talking, what they've built, and they built a product. They've started selling it, and they briefly hired a sales guy. Sorry, I don't know if you've already been with me. I have a bad habit of taking in my personal experiences and sharing with you in the context, but I think it's you may be able to draw more out of it. So these guys hired a sales guy very briefly, and see, thing is, what they are selling. I don't want to tell you the sector and all that, but what they are selling, it's more of a B2B product. So the sales cycles are long, right? And particularly in that sector, the decisions happen at a particular time frame. So if you don't close that sale within this time frame, you will actually have to wait for the next life cycle, which is typically it's an annual cycle. So you'll have to wait for that timeline once again. So unfortunately, they brought in the sales guy just after the period for that year started, and he took time to understand the very thing. So he had used up that whole period by then. So and then the cycle kicks in, right? So they went into that down period. So there is nothing he could sell because he had to wait for the next year cycle. So these guys decided that he didn't sell anything. And whatever is sold is only by them because they were not trying to sell now. They were already trying to sell for a long time. They had met some people previous year. They closed that. They did not could not attribute those sales to this guy because he didn't bring that business. So they got rid of that guy and they continue to sell. And they continue to do the same thing. And one of the biggest problems, mind you, most people don't realize, see, selling is just not about getting an order book, right? Getting a confirmation order or not even getting an advance for the payment. See, it is a complete fulfillment of it. And one of the biggest jobs of sales is collecting payments. Uh, Believe me, it's extremely important and very complicated as well. So these guys managed to sell it to a lot of companies. On the book, they have 3 crore order, but what they have collected is less than 30%. Doesn't help. It just doesn't help. So when I ask them, they say, oh, you know what? We have sold. We don't need a sales guy. We are more effective in selling. What is the problem? collection. And how do they think they'll solve the collection problem? They hire some telecallers to call up and follow up for payment. Doesn't work like that. It just doesn't work. It is not that you call up somebody and say you're not renewed your insurance, you have to renew. This is B2B sales. So the sales guy has to meet the senior guy, build that rapport with them, and tell them that, listen, you got to make the payment now. So so please don't do the mistake that you can sell it yourself because you know your product, which I'm sure you can sell yourself. You sell it yourself, you know your product better. But sales is just not that component alone. It's one crucial component, but not all of it, not whole of it. And definitely, you understand collection, you may not be able to manage because, see, the sales guy can go and tell them that, listen, if you don't pay me, I may lose my job. You can't go and say that you don't pay me, I lose my job because they know you're the co founder, right? So you will have to put all kinds of pressures, even emotional pressure to get the money out, which is what the sales guys do. So I know for a fact that I'm bad at selling. I can tell you 100 good strategies to sell, but I cannot be executing it because I will not be able to do the full cycle of it. So that's why I don't put sales as my strength. It is one thing to come up with a sales strategy, is another thing to execute it. So please be conscious of it. Follow through this. Look at these frameworks. I think I've done a fairly good job about what is important in it. I've also tried to make it as simple also. So, and most important thing is it gives little more structure to it. And believe me, it's so very important because I've done these mistakes without proper structure because everything is in my head doesn't work. Because the moment we do things structured, it actually frees up our mind. It makes it much more easier for us to do so many different things. Because as founders, as co-founders, we have so many things to handle. So it's very, very important that you do things, put some structure to it, and you can get away doing without a structure till you're an early stage company. But the moment you're coming into scaling, this is very, very important. I know I'm sounding very repetitive, but every stage, that's what it is. It's all about structure. Uh, yeah, I'll just check on wake up, all of it. Just a show of hands or thumbs up, whatever, that we're all together. We're all here still. Yeah. Abu's there. So is Yash. Bhavai. Am I getting your name right? It happens, when we are not required to keep our camera on, we can get so easily distracted with 100 other things. So, all right, I'll I'll continue with the session, assuming that Bhava is still listening and maybe not able to put his hand up. Yeah. So, see, right at the beginning, in the introduction, she was talking about economy, and I was trying to say that it is distributed economy. So, um, I'll see if I can share a. I don't think I've done. I don't know if I've put together a framework for distributed economy model. Um, Maybe in the business model, I think I've done. I don't know. I'll see if I can share that. If any of you are interested, reach out to me, then I can probably share that out. So what happens is that I feel that going forward, it's very important that we have proper structure, particularly engaging every stakeholder. So usually what happens is that general traditional stakeholder reference to promoters, which is you, right? We are, as co-founders or founders, we are the promoters of the company as well. And then there are, of course, there are businesses where there are promoters and there are founders, because promoters sometimes play only the investor role there, but they hold significant equity. But I would rather put investor separate, promoter, founder together. And then there are sometimes management, like I just said. We talked about CEO. If you think you need somebody, or even the sales function, we need to bring in people who are more effective than us. We need to bring them in. So if they're part of the leadership, then have them. And then the employees. So usually what happens is that these four are considered as a critical stakeholders. And then in some companies, in the case of manufacturing and all that, the suppliers become part of the stakeholders, because sometimes suppliers, or sometimes the supplier may themselves be the manufacturing partner as well. So they become thing. But what is important is that it is, how you structure each of these partnerships, particularly the external associations, be it with your starting even with your advisor mentor. I really urge you start looking at it as a proper partnership or an association. Because see, many a times, right, like, see, I'm an advisor to a few companies. See, like, see, I don't know how much you will believe, but when I'm with you today now doing this workshop, this is the only thing in my head. I'm not thinking anything else. But the moment I'm out of it, I actually have a call at 8 o'clock. So that's why I was asking if this could be changed. So when I'm in that call, I'm completely in that call. So I may not come back to it till somebody brings me into it. So what is important is that you need to treat your own advisors or mentors, whoever you work with, treat them like partners. You need to be proactive in engaging them, reaching out to them, trying to get what you need to get out of them. Because believe me, things just don't work like a transaction, right? I mean, I've given you this designation, you're going to deliver that to me. It doesn't work like that. Neither it works because, okay, you are on a retainer, I pay you so much, so you're going to do that. It doesn't work like that. See, even with your employees, you need to be following up. Even with your own co-founders, you need to be following up. Even with your CXO leadership team, you need to be following up. Then why you don't follow it up with your advisors and mentors? So be very clear and engage them effectively. So if you don't engage your partnerships effectively, then you don't get that value. So every time you identify any key players, be it your supplier, I'm in fact starting with your advisor mentors to everybody, have clarity of engagement. Have a clear clarity of engagement as what this will mean, and be in understanding of it. See, if I'm your supplier, you're my supplier, let us be on the same page of what, why, how, when, where, everything completely clear. See, things can't be left to assumption. See, there's another food business. This is a friend who was running it, and I was with him. And so they have a partnership with various kitchens across India, right? So we just had this Deepavali festivals, and these guys had huge orders from across the country, all the big cities. So they are dealing with hundreds of orders, and they are able to fulfill those orders through their partnerships. And part of the engagement, very interesting, right? Part of the partnership engagement is that they have defined a SLA, as in how the order flow happens, right? That order comes to you previous night, and you confirm it, and they approve it, and then it moves forward, right, for the fulfillment. And then what has happened is that there has been a history. There is a new partner, and there's been a history with the new partner that there's some of their branches. It's also a chain, a pan India chain, or at least maybe a pan metro chain, right? It operates across 4, 5 cities. So this particular chain, there was a problem. What was the problem? 12 o'clock in the afternoon, their guys in different cities go there to pick up the order, and the local partner says, kitchen partner says that we are not doing it. So this is 1 hour or 45 minutes before they are supposed to be delivering it. So the call comes to this guy. He's the co-founder. So he immediately picks up the call, phone, calls the promoter, the business leader of that partner company, and he says, yeah, this is not done, my guys are there and your team is not delivering. We just recently signed up, 2 months. We've been having a lot of issues, but I don't want to talk about the issues. Can you please get this sorted right now? He says, okay, tell me which are the places, and he takes down three city names, and in those three cities, this two, this two, this two, wherever. So he takes, and okay, so totally about 13 or 14 orders between these three cities, and about 5 or 6 of their outlets between those three cities. He calls back in some time and tells him that, see, I believe they had rejected the order. So they had not accepted the order. So there was a fundamental flaw in their process itself. So this friend is arguing with him on phone, saying that, see, this has always been the case. They never accept the order, but they are fulfilling it. Our guys push it, follow it up. Next day morning, we call, follow it up, and then they are delivering it. So they are not sticking to the process. So then the other guy asks him, then why didn't you escalate it? See, there were small problems. I didn't want to bring it up to you. Now, this is a critical problem, and I'm bringing it up to you. So leave the rest of the story. You get the gist of it here, right? See, every partnerships and alliances, the flow has to be clear. See, what happens is that when we agree and finalize some things as two management teams, right? A management team of your company and my company, we are in it out. See, management has a very different view of the way SLA should flow, which is like typically we list down in a PPT. But on the ground, the SLAs operate differently. So, what is very, very important is that when you define your SLAs, you please, like how, in the previous slides, we talked about customer journey, right? Cross functional at each stage. See, it's very important that you map out your SLAs like your customer journey. You please map out your alliance journey as how, if they are manufacturing partner for you, just map out how their supply chain works, how the whole manufacturing flow happens, how the delivery cycle happens. See, what people present on paper, on presentations, or even the loads of papers of SLAs agreements that we sign are one. How it actually happens on the ground, you need to be aware. See, if you are, people who go by the papers are managers. What differentiates, please understand, what differentiates a founder, entrepreneur to a manager is manager will look into the paper and say, we have an SLA. What founder does is that I know where the SLA doesn't work. These are the 3 points where SLA fails. And this is how we fix it. But if you fix it, it is your responsibility also to stitch it up back in the formal engagement document also. So my friend who was on top of it failed to stitch it back to the document. You understand where I'm coming from. So don't do that mistake. And it's not a isolated mistake. I've seen it time and again. There's one thing to tell as a process, one thing to do as a process, every place. So please go check, watch, note down. Or if you're putting somebody else, ask them to note down. Take minute to minute what happens between this time to this time, what happens between this time to this time. If you are not able to go, get somebody who records everything and find where the gaps are, and then map it out to see whether it aligns to your SLA that you have agreed with your partner and alliances. See, if you don't follow through these small details, most of these partnerships and strategic alliances are set up to fail. See, intentions are always good most times. Of course, there are always some bad elements whose intentions itself can be wrong. But point is, if you study the whole process, you can even catch if they have bad intention with you. So look at it, understand it. Just don't go blindly with whatever is put forth on the paper. Get the flow of it. Understand the flow of it. In fact, even works backwards. I run a technology company as well, right? So we also are working with uh, some companies in trying to build solution for them. See, what happens is that a client gives you a brief saying, this is the product need I have, this is what I want to achieve, this is what I want you to give me. Believe me, customer is not always able to articulate their problems as effectively and their own understanding of what they think is their solution as effectively. And what it ends up leaving you with is that you end up doing a lot of effort without having a clear clarity of their problem, without having clear clarity of what they actually want. And then there'll be a cycle. So in fact, what I did is that I defined a full framework for it and said, I sent it to them and said, can you please answer this? Can you please fill it up? See, it is going to help their business, but it will make my job easier, my team's job easier. You understand where I'm coming from. So it's very important, even if you're a solution development company or you're building AI solution for somebody else, right? So no matter what you're doing, it's very important, understand both sides, understand your partner or an alliance workflow also. So one, it helps you how to align your business to it so that you get better value for your engagement. And also, sometimes if they are bad players and if they are trying to take you for a ride, at least you're familiar with their flow, so you know where you need to put checks and balances to protect your interest. So it's very important understanding of the complete workflow. So hopefully this uh, framework will help you with that. What else? Establish mutually beneficial alliances. Yeah, these are fundamentally much of it is common sense, right? And explore co-branding and co-development. See, this helps in two ways, right? One is that if you're low on money, you actually can propose it to them that, listen, I'll give you co-branding. But if they are a bigger brand, it helps you to ride with their brand also. So you just look at it, what benefits you, what gives you a bigger benefit in the long run, and push for that. Yep. So am I running late? So how many slides? Sorry, I'll just take a quick check. How many more? Okay. Not bad. We are in line, but yeah, we need to have questions also, right? Okay. Right. Adaptable compliance and regulatory strategy. Okay. Why am I talking about a framework for compliance and regulatory? Maybe we'll try to. Anybody wants to answer this question? Why is it so important?
Guys, you can now ask questions if you want.
Well, you don't have any answer, then that's important. I don't want to skip that part.
I mean, without compliances, we are sailing in a risky ship.
Okay.
The regulators or government may shut down the business any point.
Okay, that is one. Any other answer? Any other response other than this? Okay, to ensure quality of products and mostly importantly, data security. Okay, any other response? Okay, see, it's true, both are correct. But one thing what I want to bring to your attention is that uh, see the compliance and regulatory, you know, adapting to regulation and compliance can also be an advantage and a huge advantage. Uh, in India, currently, Make in India is getting a big government push. I don't know how much you're familiar with, but there is one department. I'm part of another company which is which has a lot of manufacturing needs. So uh, we got a call for that company. Uh, we work with a collaborator. So it's so important, right? If you have, like previous slide, we talked about partnerships and strategic alliance. So that government business is coming through a strategic alliance that we have for that business. So see, you got to build your alliances very thoughtfully and build right ones. They they become your marketing agency. I mean, they they are getting us a big order. In fact, that order book itself can be worth huge, right? It can increase the value of the company few times, and it is coming through a alliance partner. So that's why you have to pick and choose the right partners. So apart from that, why is the regulatory or compliance important? See, government has this mandate that they want to drive made in India. Not just that, make in India, made in India. They also want to drive dependency of most of the government departments, various departments, right? Each of the departments have a mandate. So this chairman of this particular department wants to drive. They have annual budget of purchases. Annually, they have a budget to buy. Their annual budget is worth 10,000 crores. Okay, and nearly 90% of that budget money goes out of India because those products are not made in India. They're all, I mean, they have companies in India, they are supplied through India, they are brought here, either they're assembled on site, and even the some of them are not even Indian companies, they have India entities, India branch of those manufacturing companies. So some of them are sourcing few components out of here, but again, largely buying and selling. So much of the 90% of this money is technically going out of India. So these guys are very upset about it. So there's been a mandate. Government of India has been pushing them that you got to reduce it. And now they got a new chairman, possibly because the previous one didn't do as aggressively about driving the agenda of Make in India within this. So this guy has a target that in 3 years he wants to bring down or basically invert the whole equation. What he's saying is that he wants 90% to be bought from Indian businesses. 10% from outside of India is okay, but I want 90% from India. It's a big push, and it's not easy. We were talking about it, and I was asking, can we look at getting a technology collaboration with this company? See, those guys are already selling here. They'll be happy to collaborate, but government of India doesn't want it. You guys want to buy the product, open it, reverse engineer it, see where you can avoid the IP, or at least drill down what is the smallest component that you need to buy from them and see if you can make majority of it here itself. Then do that. So this is what actually China did. That's how China built so much of it, because they actually reverse engineered everything and they built their own IPs around it. Of course, India is just about 50 years late to this game, but actually doing it. And this means opportunity for each of us. So don't look at regulation, compliance is is something overbearing like a police, right? It's not a police agency. I mean, that's how they have been all this while. But if you look at some of these things, you can actually look at it as an opportunity. So please see much of these things, what is regulated or how it is approached, you can also convert it into your own opportunity space. So look at that in a sense where you actually can make good of it. And then also try to bring it down to every step of your activity. That way you are creating layer, bulletproofing your effort, right? If you're trying to do, see, a lot of times many startups tell me that I'm too small, I can't have an R&D initiative. It is partially correct. I will not buy that wholly because, like I said, that I'm part of another company. We have multiple research efforts happening with ISC to so many other engineering colleges. See, these institutions are open to partner with you. And it's not that the cost comes down to you. So, so you have a way to collaborate, but only thing is you need to start getting structured, free up your mind space so that you actually can indulge in these things, work with a lot of these people, and also run a research effort. So understand the regulatory requirements well, understand the sector specific, understand region, and see, one of the most important thing, what most of the times we don't do is that, see, we talked about competitor analysis previously, right? I think maybe in the second or third slide. See, When you look at a competition, you always look at it as compare the feature, right? You compare, okay, they are giving this feature, I can give you the same feature and I'll add little more feature. But most times what we actually miss is look at what compliance that are applicable to them. So if you're in automotive space, right, there are mandates that uh, if you are making a car, for one, I think automobile industries had, I think they could import anything below 26%. So people were importing even up to 70%. And what happened is that this rule was applied for Ford and Hyundai. So they set up shops here. Ford and Hyundai set up shops in, I'm talking, of course, Ford is out of India now in the manufacturing. They have come back with a different thing. But Ford had a huge manufacturing setup in Chennai, Tamil Nadu, not Chennai, around somewhere, Tamil Nadu. And also Hyundai had a setup in, and they both were restricted that they cannot import anything more than 26%. And one day it so happened things blew up. One of these companies hired a ex Maruti Suzuki guy. And Maruti Suzuki guy who joined them at a senior position told them that, oh, this compliance is there, but we at Maruti Suzuki have not been following it, which is only Suzuki. Maruti, many of you may not even recognize Maruti. Suzuki, we don't even follow it because it just, okay. Because Suzuki, even today, you can check, their chairman in India, Suzuki India, is a former IAS officer, right? So these people have blatantly, uh, what do you call, uh, went around the regulation. They didn't keep up with the compliance. They bulldozed the compliance. They were importing to a huge extent from Japan. So in fact, Suzuki India was feeding Suzuki Japan. If they were to shut down Suzuki India, Suzuki Japan would have collapsed. Even today, 65% of Suzuki globally, the Suzuki business contribution of 65% of their value comes from India itself. So Suzuki was doing it. So this got they got to know. So if you are aware of the compliance and regulations, your competition is following. This is what Hyundai found out, and they could not go alone. They wanted to create a bigger impact. Ford had committed $1 billion investment, and their factory was being built. So they pulled the Ford guys also. Went as a industry body. They didn't go as an individual company, because if you go as an individual company, Suzuki would have said, okay, Hyundai is taking on me as a one-on-one. So they made it as an industry body thing. They went and said that we are going to withdraw. So the industry ministry asked, why do you want to withdraw? I said, see, you are doing double standards. If you are making a rule for any of us, it should be same for all of us. You have one rule for Suzuki, one rule for us. It doesn't work. So we will pull out. If you want to do this kind of a favoritism, we don't want to be operating here. Immediately they pulled up the Suzuki, and Suzuki had to change everything. And that increased the cost of Suzuki for in India. So it made it a little more competitive for Hyundai. In fact, that is when Hyundai sales shot up, because they became as competitive, because Suzuki had a huge advantage here. They were not paying, there was, I'm not sure about what percentage, but there was a duty of their products were 26% less on some components. See, 26% less for certain components gave a significant advantage to Suzuki against the Ford small cars and Hyundai smaller cars. So you should not only be focused at your own compliance and regulatory thing. As a part of your strategy, you should also be looking into your competition's adherence to compliance and regulation, and non-compliance also. So that gives you a market advantage. I hope I'm clear on that. I'll just move forward. Okay. So I'm sure you're doing this, but I just want to highlight on focus on microservice architecture. I've also put a framework on that. I think you can use that. It can make, particularly from a point of scalability, it can give you huge advantage. So start thinking on that microservices architecture, which is very important in the way you approach scale, particularly from an infrastructure point of view. And it also helps you with real-time analytics and decision making. I've given a decision making framework. So decision making framework is not just from a technology point of view. The decision making framework I've shared is something I've done for somebody else. Um, this is, as an organization, how do you create a decision making framework when you're a leadership? What is the decision making framework for middle management and for the rest of the organization, so that a faster decision making happens and there is a capture of the flow that is there, so that you become a more uh, what do you call, an intelligent organization, right? Because there is a flow of information, you know what triggers, so it brings in a faster decision making. And that's what enables any business to be competitive, because if you are able to make quicker decision, and particularly decision which is better informed, then you are more effective, more competent. So this framework from particularly at a scaling stage is where you need to start incorporating these things. So look at that. And one of you said you're an AI. See, uh, I personally believe that uh, any activity that is skill driven, AI will do better than us. So my fundamental philosophy is skills, AI will do better. And if you want to be better at it, you want to be focusing on building your intuitive abilities. So, so that's where I said, some other firm was talking about it is education is for life, skill for a season, because skills keep changing. So that is how you got to focus. When you're building a knowledge base, that is for life. The way the knowledge gets utilized, it's not frozen. And when you talk about skill, you got to understand it is for a season. The season can be 3 months, season can be 3 years, but mind you, technology season changes faster. So don't get locked down with your expertise or your USP as a particular skill based. If the dependency of USP is a particular skill, you're running on a short leash. So you have to extend your runway. So you got to focus on what works in the long run, which is a knowledge system. So please think about it in that sense and try applying it. Um, yeah. So I think this is a fundamental thing, discipline, and I also assume that NASCOM has other sessions for you with financial modeling and all that. But this component is very, very critical when you're approaching scaling. So that's why I had to have it here. And this is where uh, see, you can look at the CAC and LTV framework, which helps you because it gives you some kind of a structure. In fact, many a times CAC is applicable, of course, if you're a software-based business, but you can apply the similar logic to any other business because this logic itself is derived from a traditional retail business. So it's not something very foreign. So it's much of it is common sense and you can always apply it across. But the whole idea of this framework is again, bring a structure to it, bring a little discipline to it, be clear about KPIs. So another thing is, so though the frameworks are generic, try to make it relevant to whatever the line of business you're in. So if you have a doubt, ask, but please try to make it, customize it to your thing because it's very, very specific to it, right? What are the key performance indicators specific to your business? What is the customer acquisition cost? See, I think I may have given some equations to it and all that. So they are broad and generic, but arrive at your things with a lot more clarity. So please spend little attention to it, capture that, and also you may have a session on this from a finance side. So whatever doubts, you can also take it up with them, and maybe they will cover these things in a lot of greater detail. So uh, I don't know, they can confirm it, but I'm just uh, suggesting. But even if that is not there, this framework should be a very handy tool for you and monitor KPIs regularly. So Yeah, just make it a point to do a regular review of it, because it's very important. Um Whether I tell someone was telling that I'm spreading a wrong thing. I say that whether you do your annual health check or not, but you keep doing your financial health check for your company, because see, if we have a way to listen to our body, we know when we are feeling not so good. But that intuitive ability we cannot have with our organization. So we need to be very conscious of where it stands at every point of time. So please keep checking on that. So lastly, feedback loop and continuous improvement. We already talked about it, I think, very early in the journey. But this is very important with each of the stakeholders that you do. See, this is where you also connect with your uh, partners, your customers. So, like I said, right, you just don't go and meet them for a party, but meet them when they have a problem. I know it may not be a best time to meet, because none of us like to get a dress down, but we need to understand the problem. So, please listen as much. And another thing is, I've also come across a lot of people, founders, when they're getting into the scale, if there is a big investment confirmed or assured by an investor, or sometimes even after the investment comes, suddenly there is a shift in the way the founders think. Like, there was a there's a gentleman who got valued significantly. I used to be mentoring that person, and after they raised the big funding, he did acknowledge and thank me very much. But after that, our engagement ended, which is okay. But only thing is, his fundamentals changed in the way he was running his business, right? Which is unfortunate. So that you should not do it. Get money, get rich, allow it to affect your lifestyle by you buying a big car, or where you dine, or where you go take your family for vacation. But don't allow the way you run your business. Allow it to impact the way you run your business, because be grounded, be mindful of the customer problems. So this person, when an investor was saying that this is a customer feedback which is bad, and he was actually trying to defend, instead of acknowledging that yes, we screwed up with that customer, I will take it up, and he was trying to say that the customer doesn't understand. I mean, you know uh, money can change people. Don't allow it to happen to you. Let it change your lifestyle. Let it change the way you holiday. Let it change the way you dress up, or move, right? Like a car, plane, whatever. But don't allow it to change the way you run your business, the way you listen to your customers, the way you listen to your employees on the ground, because they are the touch points. So the day you start defending your thing and saying that they don't understand it, then you're losing it. So don't allow it to get to that stage. And this customer feedback framework is there. It's not a feedback framework that I've done for stakeholders or others, but you can broadly use that. And periodic reviews, sector specific performance, and keep checking on it. And another thing, what you need to be looking up at this stage is also keep a regular check on what's happening in the compliance space. Keep doing it, and also keep checking on what's happening with your competition, and also what's happening with the competition's compliance space, whichever the market you're operating in. So please note it down. I didn't mention it here, so note it down. If you've keep checking on each of those things, and that's it. Oh yeah, okay. Plan timelines, structured flexible plan. Yeah. So when you are done with each of those things, and when you say that okay, you're ready for scale, please put a plan. Don't allow things to happen. Let's get to that stage. See, it is good to be dynamic. It's good to be, sorry, somebody's trying to join. Okay. It's good to be intuitive. Some founders say that I know exactly what I'm doing, which is great, but have a plan in place. And some founders I've met that I worked in this region for so many years, I know it like a back of my hand. But last 6 years they were back in India, they're working on building products and solutions. They may have been in touch with people, but markets change, compliance change, there are different players coming to the market. So please never allow your own bias to rule over you. So put a plan, make that plan current. Don't think what you knew 6 years back works today. So have a today plan when you are going for the scale, which is very important. And do each of those exercises, what we talked about. Validate your assumptions. Don't go with it. You may have been right 6 years ago, it may not be relevant today. Why? You check it. Don't go and say that, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. I know exactly where we stand. It's not about arguing. You can argue and justify that why you're right with one person, but what is important is that your business is right in the market. Even you can be wrong in front of somebody, but your business should be right in the market. In the rigidity to prove that your point is right, you may end up hurting your business. So don't do that. So, yeah, be flexible. See, what is important sometimes is also to be able to step back, slow down, and accelerate. So you need to know when to slow down, when to accelerate. And if you if you are in sync with your business, each of these components, right? You are in touch with it. You are on the ground. You're listening. You will know it intuitively. It's like you're driving or riding a vehicle, right? You know when to slow down, when to go fast because you're aware of your surroundings. But if you are on a call, you're distracted, you don't know when to slow down. That is when you're jerky. You may have to slam the brakes suddenly because you didn't notice that the vehicle in front of you is actually slowing down. So be there in it, then you will know when to, increase pedal up or when to brake, slow down. So be in sync, get planned, and yeah, this is Ariana Huffington's quote. I liked it. I thought it makes sense. We need to accept that we won't always make the right decisions, that we'll screw up royally sometimes. Understanding that failure is not the opposite of success. See, a lot of people look at it as failure and success. No. So actually, failure, it's part of success because that's what teaches us. So you need to make it into your learning system. Questions? I'll send those feedbacks, frameworks soon after this call on the mail. And any questions specific to the presentation, or I'll stop the presentation? So good. We have decent time for questions. Okay,
Hello, sir. I have a generic question.
please go ahead.
Yeah, so, like with new tools like AI and no code tools, they are making it easier to build products. Competition in tech space is growing fast, rapidly.
Correct.
So, do
Correct.
you think distribution and marketing is becoming more important for scaling than the product itself?
Well, see, it is. I mean, I don't see these two in the same breath because distribution and marketing and sales will always remain a challenge, irrespective of what we are building. But if you have a right product, that's the core, right? Because what are you distributing? What are you selling? What are you marketing? The core value proposition, either as a product or a solution. So that always is the key. But again, if you say that low code is there, so much of AI is there, and see, there are also challenges, right? Uh, I was talking to a former head of HR of Infosys. So he quit, he retired from Infosys last year. So they were having little over 3 lakh people. And I asked him, does it really make sense, or is it that you guys don't understand that you actually don't need so many people? And their market cap had crossed $80 billion. So he was telling me that no, no, we actually understand fully well, and already, I don't know how many of you have noticed it that every year companies like Infosys, TCS, Wipro, number of people they hire is less than the number of people they let go. So it's already happening, and it will affect them. But they are also, they cannot do it in bigger numbers because they have compulsions, political compulsions. They have brand compulsions because people look at them as great company, and if they're suddenly seen sending home a lot of people, then their perception in the market will fall, and that may have an effect on their market cap, though not much because retail participation is fairly low. But still, it'll have an impact. So these guys are worried about not letting go in bigger numbers because of that. But that alone will not open up a competition for you, right? Uh, that is where low code enables a lot of smaller guys also. But see, I've seen low code and no code products for some time now. There are companies who are selling it to enterprises, right? But I've not seen much success in enterprises increasing on their tech resources because there are low code products or no code products. They're still depending on third party. I think this is where relationship building is important, and also most times while the tech product by itself may be good, but the intuitive ability that you as a small team are able to bring about in stitching it to their needs or customizing it to their requirements, see, that is where the biggest challenge and opportunity also lie. Sorry, long answer, but hope it answered your question.
Yes, I got your point. Like we are like seeing in US markets that brands like creator-led brands, because of their distribution, like are taking market share from big brands, even if their product is subpar. So it makes me think like distribution is having more impact than the product. Like
See, when it is D2C, right? I mean, if you're talking about individual consumer, uh, these advantages can weigh big, but they are also not sustainable. See, value is in the next level of customers where they are looking at a professional service, they are looking at a premier service. So that is where, you know, as much as there is business for fivers in the world, there is business for custom built also. And that is where my previous response was, right? In terms of you being able to you can also talk to them, and also honestly that also contributes to your own working more thin, right? I mean, you don't need to be having hundreds of people. You can probably deliver what you needed 100 people with 20 people because of the same low code. So you can actually attribute to it, give that advantage to the customer also, that I'm going to license this, so I will bring this much cost down for you, and this is how I'll create value for you. So it is doable, and believe me, people pay. See, I used to run a data analysis firm back in 2008-9. See, at that time, I mean, what we call today analytics, the analytics terminology was not there, so we used to call it data analysis. So what you call retail analytics is what I was actually doing. We were doing, and we used to call it data analysis for retail because retail analytics as a term was not there. So even those days, uh, people didn't understand the value of the insights. So they were paying only for the IT resource that I had to have. in the customer place, right? For just taking data out of their database and changing the format and pushing it back to our office so that we do the analysis and send it to them. But today things have changed. People are actually willing to pay a premium for value, and they understand that world has become more competitive. So end of the day, what is your core value? And if your core value is what is identifiable with your customer, then you've secured yourself in that respect. So it all comes down to how do you identify yourself with the customer's core value, core need, and you're able to provide value to their core need.
Thanks, sir. I got the point.
Any other question? No questions?
Anyone has any other questions? You can also drop it down in the chat box. Okay, I think they have exhausted all their questions. So, thank you so much, sir, for coming
Just one
in.
second.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
see, I'll share it with Jahnavi, the frameworks, Jahnavi and Akhilesh. So please go through it. If you have questions on that, tomorrow we can discuss that. And also, if you have any other questions, think through, and tomorrow we can discuss. Yes, Jahnavi, please, all yours.
Okay, so uh, Akhilesh.
Hi, Janvi.
Hi, Akhilesh.
You can go ahead. It's okay.
Oh, okay. So I was just saying, thank you so much, sir, for coming in today, and we'll see you soon then. So you're on mute.
Our session is next week, right?
Yes,
Yes.
so
The
on
follow-up session.
11th we have the next session.
Yeah. So you have a week's time. So go through it. If you have any doubt, please make note of it and we can discuss and try to do some of those frameworks. Try apply it for your own thing. So if you have problems, actually we can take up that and discuss it as well. So I'll just mail you those things, whatever I have.
Sure,
So,
sir. And
so
we'll forward it to the students.
yeah. All right. Thank you so
Okay.
much. And we were so small in number, you could have actually, all of you could have kept your camera on.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
I'll send the
Thank you
pitch
so
deck as
much.
well. Would you require that, any of you? I mean, anyway, there's some frameworks there. Okay. All right.
Okay, sir. Thank you so
Thanks.
much.
Bye. Bye, everybody.